Brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and neutral. I'm going to turn a corner today and make it easy on myself. It may be hard on some of you, but if you don't like what you hear, you can just turn it off. I'm going to read some poetry. It had been brought to my attention that that ought to be done. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. I'll have a couple of things that are kind of light and then a variety. But I started doing this even before I got in the legislature. I'd write poems at Creighton. But when I got in the legislature, I started writing what I call a rhyme a day. Then they started calling them Ernie Grams. They would look forward to them. Some people collected them. One of the senators even put them all together and let people bid on it at a fundraiser that she had. I didn't care what they did with it after they got through. But anyway, here I go. This is called Dead Heat. Lawyer Smith sued Lawyer Jones for slander on a certain day. Lawyer Jones did countersue and claimed it was the other way. Each did represent himself because each said, this case is clear. Slander was pronounced against me. Parson Brown, those words did hear. Judge Cornelius asked the two disputants, shall we plow this row? Lawyer Smith says, by your leave, and Lawyer Jones says, let her go. Bailiff, summon Parson Brown, the judge directed. In he came. Parson, Judge Cornelius said, two lawyers here have made a claim. Each by the other was defamed. So you've been called to testify. By your words we shall determine which speaks true and which does lie. Parson Brown, a somber, solemn man, spoke slowly. Here's my say. Nearby stood I when those lawyers argued on that certain day. Jones called Smith a lying, thieving, low-down skunk who lacks all shame. Smith responded using words toward Jones that were about the same. Mean and harsh their words, Your Honor. Both were loud and most uncouth. Yet it was the first time I heard either of them tell the truth. Now, here's another one. It is designed to show that you might do something today, which leads you to do something tomorrow. It's called The Slippery Slope of Pinafore Picket. Inquiry. You have jaywalked. For that crime, I'm writing you a ticket. Tell me how you came to this, the cop asked Pinafore Picket. Here's Picket from his own experience. If a man commits a murder, Picket gravely said, to commit a robbery may soon invade his head. Then to snatch a purse, by God, may scarcely make him blink. Next thing that you know, he'll take into his head to drink. Then he may evade his taxes, broadening his scope. Next comes incivility that shortens up his rope. Lo, the voice of caution he abandons on its perch. Not surprisingly, the man may cease attending church. It then seems a logical and fitting expectation when to seek a job, he falsifies his application. Then he will procrastinate as ethical standards drop. Violating traffic rules is just a step and a hop. Thus before you as offender, guiltily I stand, dreading but prepared to take that ticket from your hand. Many man, alas, can date there's ruin and start in crime from some murder or other they thought little of at the time. Now this one is kind of long. It's a warning to people, and it's based on the notion of a play called, well, I'm not going to tell you, but this is Faustina's Futile Quest for Eternal Youth. And I may touch on that play as I go along. And since the senators were going to get it, I gave what I call a disclaimer. This was an older white female senator. She tried to wear little girl's clothes because she had a Latinx woman working for her. young, curvaceous, very black hair, made her makeup so that she could look like a model on the cover of a fashion magazine. Everything was perfect, not a hair out of place. And I guess this older senator thought that if she dressed a certain way and put on powder and whatever else, she could look like this young woman. Everybody thought it was shameful and silly what she did, but I thought that it was a perfect time to write a rhyme. But to make sure she didn't think I was writing about her. Disclaimer, right at the outset, let it be said, any resemblance to living or dead persons is purely coincidental. Truth delivered neat can be detrimental. Hence, many weavers of moral stories frequently resort to allegories. In order to circumvent accusations of gossip as well as insinuations about their true motives and laying bare the foibles of people everywhere. Rewrite the rewrite, rehearse the rehearsal until they create a work universal. Is how writers, artists, and playwrights and such produce things of art which uncannily touch emotions and minds, thus making one feel that what is perceived is not fiction, but real. Then here is a footnote from my colleagues to help them understand. This is loosely patterned after the legend of Faust, the German magician slash astrologer who sold his soul to the devil in exchange for worldly experience, knowledge, and power. Continuing with my disclaimer, such a result, the effort successful, although some perceivers may deem it quite stressful. Because the artistic work they may find a true self-reflection which troubles their mind, because although true, the reflection's unkind. Should such perceivers in anger or grief expose being found out by seeking relief through counterattack, self-confessing their shame, when never, not once, were they mentioned by name? If they keep silent, avoiding a spat, how would one know that their head fits this hat? Faustina. Wrinkles and lines and feet of crows surround her eyes, beside her nose. The grooves etched deep in pasty flesh run past her mouth and subtly mesh with creases where youth's bloom had been and weave a netted pattern in skin. Bereft of color, the chalky white complexion makes an arresting sight. Spidery lines in cheeks descend to jawbones under which they blend, with loose skin having streaks and mottle, replicating a chicken's waddle. Watery eyes above which sag great puffy lids like fat in bags. At times, like sightless discs, they're still and pass along the spine a chill, like that produced by eyes of shark, motionless, round, and flat and dark. Fleshy forehead, deeply lined and grooved, the years have not been kind. Hair, though once as dark as night, was flecked with gray and streaked with white. Flabby of body, though not fat, with hips wide, quite, and very flat. Shapeless legs of sausage hue, crisscrossed by veins like worms of blue. Part 3. Crushed by unforgiving truth, desperately grasping after youth, wearing sheer and patterned hose, young girls' coif and little girls' clothes, cute barrettes tucked in her hair seemed out of place positioned there, occasioning a smile or stare. Change of life, it seems, had found her, blinded to the truth around her. Although quite meticulous in dress, she looked ridiculous. Things appropriate for youth mocked elders dressed in them, forsooth. It seemed against her fortune raged, stealing attractiveness as she aged. Truth, like morning sun, did dawn upon her mind. She grew withdrawn, for from herself she could not run. Something drastic must be done. Faustina's agony. Late one night, when all alone, as lightning flashed and wind did moan, and like a restless spirit blown through branches skeletal of trees, down she fell onto her knees. From depth of anguish, soul cried, please, devil, angel, spirit, or witch, I have no preference as to which responds to aid me in my plight. O creatures who patrol the night, striking fear and sowing fright, seeking souls to save or steal, hear my plea and let me feel your presence straightway. Let my eye see form which will not terrify. I beg you, do not pass me by. As the words her heart did speak, the moaning wind became a shriek, which made her aging body weak. Trembling earth felt thunder's boom, like final judgment's clap of doom. A presence crept into her room. She thought she saw a shadow loom above her mirror, and a voice inside her head spoke, here a choice before you I am bound to lay. Decide you must before the day, whose shafts of deadly meddlesome light eradicate the cloak of night, which covers like a shroud the things I offer, peasants, lords, and kings. Know whom you have summoned here. Then there whispered in her ear yet another voice, beware, evil is abroad, take care. Time flies on, you've none to spare. Listen not to him whose goal is capturing your priceless soul. Gird your mind, resist the smile. He will show you to beguile away your judgment. Do not fall into the snare he sets for all. All who feel such pain, intense and deep, that welcome seems the endless sleep of death. I beg you, shun the voice which coaxes you to make a choice that has a seeming of great worth. Then the other voice spoke, earth is but a place of pain and fears, anguish like you feel and tears, tears of sorrow, all such things abound. You but to stop and look around, happiness all folks are seeking. As that soothing voice was speaking, thunder boomed and snapped its spell. Which voice to heed she could not tell, for both of them did speak so well. Quite abruptly speaking ended, total silence had descended. Never felt she so alone. Terror like an icy stone upon her pounding heart did press, causing her profound distress. God, she cried, if God there be, oh, let your angels comfort me. Let me hear their voices sweet. Let them guide my stumbling feet. If you fail me, great the cost will be. My soul, alas, is lost. If my soul be lost, no pardon will be granted. In a garden long ago and far away, another anguished voice did pray. Father, if thy will it be, take this bitter cup from me. 'Tis thy only son who begs. Thou must drain it to the dregs, was God's reply. So staunch thy fear. For this cause I brought you here. Though thou art my only son, my will, not thine, shall be done. Faustina's fateful bargain. Was she in the selfsame place? Agony showed in her face. As she stared into her mirror, none was there to help or hear her. In her veins, thin blood ran cold, staring back, a face so old, so very old and ugly she let out a gasp, that can't be me. And yet it was. With head on shoulder, sobs escaped as she grew older. Right before her transfixed eyes, the marks of age wrenched from her sighs. Underneath her eyes, deep circles darkened into blues, then purples, helpless, hopeless, in despair, watching as her once black hair did lose all blackness, turning gray. Traumatized, she looked away. More she could not bear to see. God, what shall become of me? Every touch of youth has flown. I'm an old and ugly crone. From her welled a piteous groan. Such a cross I cannot bear. Fate is horribly unfair. Then her screams did rend the air. Suddenly she knew the brink of madness she approached. Now think, She told herself, I must not slip into that madness. I must grip my sanity. She bit her lip and drew bright blood that trickled down her chin, and droplets stained her gown and quickly turned a sickly brown. Facing this most ghastly hour, I shall summon any power which can lift this awful weight. I only hope it's not too late. Shivering, her teeth a chatter, she exclaimed, it does not matter if my soul go in the bargain. Hear me, God, or Demogorgon. At that evil name she shook. I cannot bear the way I look. Healthless flesh droops from my jaws, fingernails like yellowed claws, foul as dung my fetid breath, warning of impending death. Waiting for me is the hearse. Neither doctor, priest, nor hearse can give me the thing I cherish, youthful beauty, or I perish. Then a shape most terrifying did present itself. Her crying ceased abruptly as she shuddered. Demogorgon, then she uttered, I am sent here by my master. Ordinarily disaster does befall the one who speaks my dreaded name, but one who seeks so desperately as you do now, a thing may have my master's vow. Whatever you shall ask, he'll give to make you happy while you live. In exchange, he'll take what's left when you of life shall be bereft. Nothing less nor more is required. Have whatever you've desired. Though she, when my life's expired, what is left for which I care? Meeting Demogorgon's stare, she with firm voice did declare, for my youthful looks I pine, and to regain them I shall sign, though it be a mortal sin, I shall sign. She took the pen, which Demogorgon with a grin pressed into her trembling hand. Now signed the deed was his command. And as she signed, a cloak of fur appeared and wrapped its warmth around her, for air within the room turned colder. Was she growing young or older? Hesitation she showed none. There, she cried, the thing is done. Demogorgon growled, we've won. Moving like a soul disjointed, fearing she'd be disappointed, to her mirror she then turned. In her cheeks, new hot blood burned. Tell me, Demogorgon said, shall the hairs upon your head be darkened to the hue of night, obliterating gray and white? Yes, oh yes, she cried, and tears of joy dissolved her awe and fears. If salvation's gate has slammed and my immortal soul be damned because I've done a mortal sin, youthful, let me look again. Do I understand your request as you looked before? Youthful looks, is that the goal for which you signed away your soul? Quoth Demogorgon, be quite sure, for if you err, there is no cure. Once your lips have shaped the sound, by those words you shall be bound. Bear with me. By those words you shall be bound. Yes, now ask no more of me. Youth's sweet bloom I yearn to see. Throughout my face and on my cheek, give it even as I speak. Unintelligible words he chanted, then, quote, as promised, you are granted. What your desperate heart desires, suddenly multicolored fires engulfed the monstrous apparition, sweeping him laughing to perdition. Truth and consequences. So excited she became, for in the mirror was the same black hair which crowned her head in youth. Demogorgon told the truth. Age, old age, has lost its hold. I am young and no more old. How her heart raced at the thought of youthfulness her soul had bought. Then suddenly her breath was caught. A sharp pain pierced her chest. She gasped, and with both arms her chest she clasped. She stumbled to the floor and grasped a chair which toppled with a clatter. What, she gasped, can be the matter? Can it be that I am dying? Was Demogorgon lying? Did he not old age reverse? Has he put on me a curse? Is my frail health growing worse? For this turn, am I to blame by speaking Demogorgon's name? Demogorgon, where art thou? Show yourself to me right now. Tear up that unholy deed you've reneged, so I am freed from my agreement with your master. Faster raced her heart, much faster than it ever had before. Demogorgon with a roar of laughter did materialize, and mocking stood before her eyes. Pain accompanied each breath. Overtaking her was death. To a thread of life she clung. Liar, gasped she, I'm not young. Age and death infect each organ. You have tricked me, Demogorgon. Thus my dying does betoken that your promise you have broken. If my youth had been restored, I would not. Demogorgon roared and filled the room with such a thunder that the walls were split asunder. Foolish me, behold this deed. Take it in your hands and read the terms to which you have agreed. Youth is what my soul did buy, O Demogorgon. That is why I charge you with a vicious lie. Youth is not the thing you bought. Something far less sure you sought. Youthful looks, that's what was granted. Our agreement is not recanted. Satan is my master's name. He says you should not join a game beyond your depth of comprehension. While we counsel, let me mention, Dr. Faust, renowned magician, craved great knowledge. His position made him thirst for facts unknown to other humankind. His style and tone of discourse gained him world renown. His lust for power brought him down. With blood he signed, as you have done, agreement with the mighty one who rules this sphere, who sent the keys to him, Mephistopheles, to open a forbidden door. Faust lost his soul forevermore. Foolish one, this night you'll rue. The fires of hell shall claim you too. Lust for power took Faust's all. Vanity is your downfall. All you had, you gave for looks. It is time to close the books. Having called and used our powers, all is ended, you are ours. Ere she drew another breath, Demogorgon summoned death. Poor Faustina sighed, too late, vanity has sealed my fate. To the regions far below, death shall take me, this I know. All who for your soul do care, save your soul, forsake your hair. Better to have hair of white than suffer hell's eternal light. As God's guards the tiny sparrow, save thy soul, use Lady Clairol. So much for that. Now I'll go to something else. Seeing ourselves as others. Down in the mines, they had labored all day. At day's end, to surface they came. Two miners who had done similar toll, but yet they did not look the same. One's face was clean as a new baby's rump, the other's was coated with dust. Clean face went straight to the washroom to wash. To make his face clean, wash I must. Dirty face oddly did not wash his face. He combed his hair back and departed. Out of the mine shack, still wearing his dust, he walked to his car and departed. What caused dirty faced man not to wash while clean face applied water and soap? Each had responded to life as he saw it, reacting within his own scope. As they ascended, each looked at the other and marked well the face he had seen. He with the clean face thus thought his was dirty, while dirty face thought his was clean. This is called staying afloat. In the gutter lay a drunk. A priest above him towered. Tell me why you drink so much, the priest said as he glowered. I drink much to drown my troubles, said the drunk to him. Have you drowned them? Snapped the priest. Nope, father, they can swim. This is called the red dress. And I've made reference to Oscar Wilde before, and he'll be mentioned in this. Once upon a time, there was a fundamentalist Christian lady who meticulously avoided everything the least bit shady. Anytime temptation reared its ugly head, she would not heed it. Such her modus operandi, and thereby she did defeat it. She was oh so prim and proper, yet if total truth be told, sister fundamentalist down inside did have a stranglehold on a yen to kick the traces. So one day she made a rest stop at an everything for the fashionable modern woman chic dress shop. Act 2. She was well read, and her favorite writer was named Oscar Wilde. Many of his writings caused her lips to curve into a smile. She dwelt on an Oscar principle, knowing she might come to rue it. If temptation you'd be rid of, there is but one way, yield to it. Thus spoke Oscar Wilde. If you want to get rid of temptation, yield to it. Act 3. In that chic shop, she tried on a flaming red dress, old temptation. Reared its ugly head, she felt a twinge of moral trepidation. Vanity awakened, she saw curves she didn't know she had. Every curve that red dress hugged inside, she mused, I don't look bad. Mightily she tussled with that Oscar principle, then said she, Lucifer, Satan, devil, get behind me. Go away and let me be. Act 4. All grew silent on that moral battlefield. Then out of the blue, Satan whispered in her ear, looks pretty good from back here too. Never in her life was she subjected to such mortal stress. Fundamentalism fled, the Christian lady bought that dress. This is called jumping the gun. Grandma and her friend were in the front room sipping tea. Grandson, deep in serious thought, was leaning on her knee. Then he stretched out on the floor with paper and a pen. He is such a clever boy, gushed Grandma with a grin. Grandma's friend, a sip of tea took, gave approving nod. Grandson, without looking up, said, Grandma, please spell God. Surprised and pleased, she nudged her friend. A preacher he may be. Smiling broadly, Grandma spelled out capital G-O-D. Concentrating hard, he carefully printed out that word. Grandma, prior to this time, had never ever heard grandson mention God. She chirped, let's have us some vanilla. Goody, goody, grandson cried, but Grandma first spelled Zilla. So he was interested in Godzilla, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to get as many of these in as I can. Hang with me. Stranger than fiction. When the Persian Gulf War ended, sailing on a ship was a sailor with a limp from shrapnel in his hip. Still, despite his injuries, he rubbed his hands in glee. Off came his engagement ring and dropped into the sea. In a flash, his happiness was changed to deepest gloom. Having lost that ring, he lost the chance to be the groom of his most beloved, who had worn this ring to carry always with you. If you lose it, never shall we marry. Shipmates offered consolation, although was in vain. Nothing broke his gloom, and nothing eased his biting pain. When his ship returned to port, the sailor was much thinner. First thing off the ship, he had a mournful, lonely dinner. Sometimes strange things happen, and all logic they defy. Nothing can account for them, in mystery they lie. As he munched his fish, His teeth bit something hard as stone. Could it be the lost ring found? Of course not, just a bone. The prayer, in parentheses, you asked for it. Lord, the fervent Christian prayed, please be my sister and my brother. By the way, while you are at it, be my father and my mother. Late that night, her prayer was answered, and her blood was thinned and chilled. Mother, father, sister, brother, in a plane crash, all were killed. Lord, I knew not what I asked for. From within a grinding moan rose, and bitterly she cried out, I am in this world alone. Foolish one, before you offer up a prayer, be sure don't guess that the answer which you really do desire from God is yes. Kind soul that I am, I'll simply make this awful tale a dream, coursing through her head as she lies snoozing near a gurgling stream. Next, I'll startle her awake with sweat upon her anxious brow. Then I think that I shall make the her of whom I speak a cow. Poets in their way are godlike, yea, creating without fetter. Tell the truth now. Does this pleasant ending make you feel much better? On we go. I have some more. I won't read that one, nor that one. This one you might like. Suppose God were a little girl. In her yard, a little girl one day went all aflutter. Down the street, a man had thrown his wife into the gutter. Mommy, cried the little girl, that awful man is mean. Mother grabbed her daughter's hand and fled the frightful scene. As they hastened to the house, the little girl went frantic, and the mother, for her part, was eaten up by panic. Shush, child, breathed the mother as she wept the child, as she swept the child inside. Mother leaned against the door while daughter shook and cried. Desperately, the mother tried to think of what to say. Helplessly, she told her daughter, God will have his way. You can't, we can't always understand the things that God must do. Asked the sobbing little girl, will God help me and you? We can only hope he will. She had no wish to lie. Well, God didn't help that lady. Mommy, tell me why. I don't know the answer, sighed the mother. I just don't. He'll be there to help us, though. No, the child cried. No, he won't. Then the child surprised her mother. Did God make that man? God made everything, the mother said, for that's his plan. Quietly went the little girl, and then she shook her head. Maybe God didn't make him, but I wouldn't have, she said. The prosector. That's a word that I kind of invented. It's a guy who does autopsies. Reflection on an autopsy table. Suddenly, brilliantly, light pierced his mind. Not waves or beams, but the brain jolting kind. Not just a corpse was the mound on the gurney, nor the mere shell, of a stilled tongue attorney. Frigid tiled walls and a hard floor to match, sink and floor drains, bloody fluids to catch, saws, knives, huge sutures, a headrest of stone, implements eager to bite flesh and bone, cold, silent ambience holding its breath. Here was the clinical chamber of death. Feelings of sadness, nor grief, nor of fear ever encroach, for they have no place here. Rich, great, and powerful, all make their stop, along with the wretched, at death's butcher shop. Bones, vital organs, stripped naked, laid bare, unblinking, unseeing eyes trap death's stare. Never had thoughts of such bright line precision illumined his mind. He could not make incision. Under his knife, grotesque flesh over bone, saw he a face, and the face was his own. Going on. One lie or two. May one who lied be justified, or shall one never tell a lie ever? Fierce king and the blind man's bluff. The game is blind man's buff. Buff is short for buffet, which means a hit. When you put on a blindfold and whoever you hit is it. But this is blind man's bluff. I can see, O king, I can see. Blind was I born, but thou hast cured me. Darkened my eyes were until this bright day, when thy royal presence chased darkness away. Startled, the king, astride his great steed, stroked his beard, saying, speak more of this deed. For never had thought taken root in my mind that I might bring sight to a person born blind. For never had thought taken root in my mind. The king was tyrannical, fierce, fearsome, vain, feeling no qualm when administering pain. Kindness was weakness in his lexicon, weakness as ever eschewed by the strong. Marked by ferocity even in youth, he felt entitled as king to the truth. Liars he broke not, had torn out their tongues, and had molten metal poured into their lungs. Soldiers and swordsmen surrounding the king were ordered to let the man pass through their ring. Scowling with arms crossed upon his broad chest, the king to the man growled, thy claim shall I test. One who dares lies to the king is unwise. He who would dare to deceive the king dies. O great king, the cowering man said, if I lie, swordsman may cut off my head. The king eyed him darkly, you're in my corral. 'Tis not they may cut, but rather they shall. Heed well this test, and thy words best be true. Tell me my robe's color. The man answered blue. Off with his head, snapped the king. Oh, off with his head, snapped the fierce king. Scant worth there be to his words. Had he been blind from birth, no color ever was seen by his eyes. How knows he blue? This deceitful cur lies. Swordsmen and soldiers exchanged knowing grins. Lying their king deemed the worst of all sins. No other wrong roiled his royal wrath so. That one dare lie to him, God forbid, no. Swift be my justice, now savor a sample. Losing thy lying head lays an example. Let all who learn thy fate tremble and heed it. I'll have thy head, for no more dost thou need it. Stunned, the man sank to the ground on his knees. Terror squeezed tears from his eyes. He bid, please. Hands clasped in prayer mode, in fear did he squirm. Mighty king, please, pity take on this worm. Kneeling before thee, this poor humble man foolishly plied what he thought a grand plan, designed to bestow on a great king his due. Honor and glory I sought to bring you. The king raised his hand. Swordsman, stay thy advance. Harm not this worm. I shall grant him the chance to make explanation of why he dared lie, while knowing if found out, he surely would die. Then to the man on his knees barked the king, open thy mouth now and like a bird sing. Sing and sing sweetly or be dispatched hence. Take care, commit not a second offense. Fairly close trod the man to the line, twixt daring and foolhardiness. He must divine just how much tolerance the king would extend before casting judgment, his small life to end. He, though, had ventured too far down the track, he could not hesitate, neither turn back. He must forge forward, naught else could he choose. The die had been cast, he had everything to lose. Careless words spoken engendered this strife. Could words well spoken now rescue his life? Right words had power, his small life to save. Wrong words assured he would fill a fool's grave. Smelling death's foul breath, in terror he trembled. O mighty King, I confess I dissembled. When I beheld thee, as sure as I live, what, wondered I, can this humble man give or offer as gift to so mighty a king? No thing I own, mighty King, not one thing, except what may spring from boldness and wit. So quickly but deeply did I ponder it. Lo, this occurred to me, honor would shower over thy person if great healing power flowed from thee, great King, beneficent and kind, opening the eyes of a poor man born blind. Being called kind, made the king chafe with coldness. Still he was taken by wit and the boldness exemplified by this poor man who had hope that he might survive. The king gave him more rope. If my contrivance seemed to be bad, no, mighty King, I gave all that I had, though it be less than a jot or a tittle. To me it was all, though to thee it seemed little. Yes, mighty King, of a truth I did lie, for thy greater glory, O King, that is why. Nothing sought I, sire, to benefit me. Fool if I be, sire, 'twas only for thee. So said the blind man, then left off speaking. Life, precious life, was the prize he was seeking. Mind numbed by terror, with bowed head he waited, eyes tightly closed, limbs a tremble, breath bated. Had the man cleverly played the king's vanity, or had he dangled from the height of insanity? If he'd misstepped, he would pay greatest price, through flesh and bone with the swordsman's steel slice. Pensive the king was, and all those around watched him regarding the worm on the ground. There cringed a man who himself called a worm, such a dehumanizing, self-loathing turn. Marveled the fierce king, this poor man alone, surrounded by death's men, waxed steady as stone, and valiantly struggled in order to live. Clemency, wondered the king, should he give? Threatening thunderclouds, cloaking his brow, lifted and scattered. The king did allow hard lines etched deeply, so slightly to soften something the fierce king did not indulge often. Ordered the king, to thy feet, humble man, though not I know of thy kith, kin, or clan, sweeter thy song be than all singing birds, well-meaning motive I glean from thy words. Swordsman, command he, learn what is real. Here stands a man, not a worm, sheath thy steel. All stared amazed, for of iron was their king. None witnessed ever before such a thing. Abruptly the king urged his mighty steed on, summoned his retinue, we must be gone. That day, that one day, a poor man did sing, a song whose words melted a fierce, iron-souled king. Shakespeare a moral wrote, cogent and witty. No beast so fierce, but knows some touch of pity. That was from King Richard III, Act 1, Scene 2, line 71. If you stuck it out to the end, go back and read now the query again. Put on your thinking cap, analyze well. How many lies did the poor blind man tell? That was that, and that ends my time. So I say, as the canary did when he found that the cage door was ajar, I'm out of here.
Thank you for watching the Ernie Chambers Show. If you'd like to make suggestions, email us at ewcfacts@gmail.com. That's ewcfacts@gmail.com. This has been an EWC Communication production.